All right, well, we are going to get started here. Welcome everyone to the webinar. I am glad to have you all. Today we will be discussing Biblically Responsible Investing, or BRI for short. Some housekeeping reminders: please make sure your camera is turned off for the duration of the webinar. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat, and I will answer as many as time permits during the question section at the end. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nathan Cruz, and I'm a financial advisor with Christian Wealth Management. I started my practice in 2014, and I serve clients in the San Benito, the Monterey, Santa Cruz, and Santa Clara County areas, as well as some other states. I specialize in financial planning for individuals, families, and small businesses. Some areas that I help my clients include retirement planning, college savings, and investment strategies for large purchases. So let's get started with talking about BRI. So to unpack what BRI is, we must first look at the traditional secular view of the responsibility of business to society. According to Milton Friedman, a Nobel Prize winner in economics, the only social responsibility of business was to increase its profits to itself and its shareholders. This is often referred to as a single bottom line. However, this model of single bottom line business is now being challenged. If the focus is only on business and shareholder profits, then neglect and even abuse can be done to stakeholders, stakeholders who are the employees, the customers, the supply chains, the local communities, etc. All of that can be abused for the sake of profit. More and more, we are seeing that this has a negative effect on a business's long-term performance, and that it can cause its shareholder to invest in industries that they would not morally agree with. For these reasons, socially responsible investing emerged. SRI, which is short for socially responsible investing, puts shareholder assets in companies that align with their values. BRI is a subset of SRI, specifically investing in companies whose revenue sources, philanthropic activity, and treatment of stakeholders aligns with biblical values. Scripture has mandates that are the basis for BRI. Some of them are listed here. So Proverbs 3:9 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth and with your first fruits, and with your first fruits of all your produce." 1 Corinthians says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all for the glory of God." And Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them." As you can see, everything that we do should be for the honor of the Lord, and it should be done in good works. And so this leads us then to address issues that are inherent to investing. And I think my screen sharing just stopped. Let me get this back up here. There we go. Okay. As you can see, we should be doing all this for the honor of the Lord. So let's get into some issues that we need to address with BRI, or with owning a investment. So the first issue is ownership by investment. So when an investor buys a stock of a business or a company, the investor becomes an owner of the business. This includes buying stock directly, or more likely by owning stocks through a mutual fund. As a business owner, the investor profits from what the business produces and participates in the philanthropic endeavors of the business. Herein lies the problem. Say an investor owns the stock of media company A. And media company A's business is comprised of 50% advertising and 35% business ventures to fund new filmmakers. Now that seems great, right? Great business model. But unfortunately, for the sake of this example, the last 15% of media company A's revenue is from creating content for the adult film industry. So that would mean that any investor who owned a stock in media company A would be profiting off of the adult film industry. So I want to take a brief detour and explain the difference between being a consumer and being a shareholder or a stock owner. So a consumer, someone who purchases a gallon of milk at the grocery store, does not have the same moral obligation or responsibility as someone who owns stock in the grocery store. Both are making values-based decisions. Buying milk is important. Profiting from store sales is important. But someone who owns stock in the grocery store profits by whatever the grocery store sells. So now that we've established the issues that value-conscientious investors can run into with their investments, we want to transition to how BRI can align your investments with your values. So first off and foremost, this is done through investment screenings. With today's access to information, we have broader insight into businesses, including revenue sources, philanthropic initiatives or donations, and stakeholder treatment. So software and web tools have been made and created that utilize all the data that is available. Then specific screening parameters or rules are then established so that the software can highlight and categorize areas in a business that would violate the rules or parameters. Using the example from before with media company A, a screening of that company would flag the revenue from the adult film industry as a violation of the pornography category. Let's move now from the hypothetical to a real-world example. So here is a screening of a very commonly used index fund. Here is the VOO, Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund. And so here, up here in the top left, these are the more SRI kind of social governance and environmental scorings from 1 to 100 of the average company in the S&P 500 or in this fund. And so, they're averaging around 60 out of 100 in environmental, 57 out of 100 in social, and 56 out of 100 in governance. And so it's showing the positive categories here, and they can actually be expanded. The data can get very granular. It just depends how deep you want to go. But it's showing here that 406 securities are best in class in governance, and then 221 securities are best in class in marketing ethics. Now, if you look to the very far right-hand corner under faith-based, this is where it gives the total score and adds in those biblical value screenings that I was mentioning. So here are the negative categories. There's social, and I've actually expanded bioethics here to show what that means, right? And so 19 of the securities or companies, they are investing or they are a part of abortion legislation. So they push that, right? 16 of them give to abortion philanthropy. 7 of them do embryonic stem cell research, which actually takes the embryos, so unborn fetuses, and uses them in stem cell research. And then one of the securities makes abortifacient drugs. And so these are the things that we can look into and how detailed the data can get with these kinds of screenings. So we can go pretty deep and see pretty deeply as well. So now that we've kind of gone through issues with owning investments, what a BRI screening looks like, what about performance? So a common question that arises regarding BRI is performance, right? We often get concerns like, well, if you're limiting the companies that you can invest in, surely performance is sacrificed. Large companies like Apple and Google support abortion and LGBT activism, so it would seem that a BRI portfolio would lose out on investing in these successful companies. So these are very important concerns to address, but are they valid? So let's look into the research. So this is just looking at socially responsible investing as a whole, again, the overarching umbrella of BRI. And in 2014, Oxford University, that's Oxford in the UK, so a very prestigious university, showed 190 academic studies that showed the relationship between sustainability and firm or company performance. So 80% of those studies show that there's a positive relationship between good sustainability practices and the stock performance, and 88% of them showed that there is a positive impact to the firm's performance if they have strong environmental, social, and governance practices. So to kind of sum it up, Morningstar showed that, or said that sustainable investing research suggests that there is no performance penalty if you invest with SRI type of funds. Now, that's for SRI as a whole, but what about BRI? So a more recent study in 2016 came out from Biola University here in Southern California, and it was done by a CFA named Shane Annette. And what he did was look at the back test, or look at the historical performance of a biblically responsible portfolio and then its secular benchmark. And the findings were that the BRI portfolio actually generated outperformance compared to the secular benchmark. While outperformance isn't guaranteed, the findings do help dispel the notion that investing with biblical values will equate to a loss of opportunity or penalty to performance. There are several contributing factors to this, but some key things to consider are that companies that have well-established mission statements and high ethical standards usually keep good, long-standing relationships with their customers, their employees, and their supply chains. This in turn can encourage innovation and adaptivity in an ever-changing market, resulting in excellent business performance in the long run. Another thing to consider is that big companies like Apple and Google and Facebook, they take these hard stances on social issues that may disagree with Christian morals or Christian values purely out of a business and an economic standpoint. And I think if we're really being honest, that they have committees and finance committees and marketing committees that do this to expand their reach to different types of social groups, right? And so companies that are in their prime growth years as far as their stock goes, they may not actually take those heavy stances because they're just focusing on the one thing that they do best, right? Their service, their good that they supply, and they're focusing on that. And those kind of companies would actually pass BRI screenings. A great example of that is this company here called Inphi. So Inphi is a company located in the Silicon Valley. They specialize in big data and cloud computing. And so what they say on their website that their mission is that they want to remain innovative and focus on the success of their customers. So they're very customer and client driven. And if you visit their website, they were actually first to market on several technologies. And so they're a very innovative company, and it shows in their stock. According to Morningstar, the average 5-year performance for the Inphi stock was 35.44%. So that is phenomenal performance, averaging for the last 5 years. And so again, BRI screenings can find great companies like this and that can meet the needs of any investor who wants to invest with biblical values. Here's an actual screening of the Inphi Corporation. Again, here are the environmental, social, and governance sections here. And as you can see, they score a bit higher than the average company in the S&P 500. Well, the S&P 500 companies were scoring an average of around low 60s to high 50s. They're actually around the mid 60s to low 70s. And so some positives here under social. They're best in class in data security and privacy, labor practices, innovation, social impact, and supply chain. So great company, great business model, doing wonderful things, and there are no negative screenings here. And so they actually have a positive Inspire impact score of 47. And again, the impact score goes from positive 100 to negative 100. And so they're doing quite well. There are also several fund companies in existence who provide their shareholders with diversified BRI mutual and index fund options. This is great because it allows the everyday investors like you and I to have access to investments that both meet our needs and align with our values. BRI fund companies also put their money where their mouth is. They give money to charitable organizations that are a blessing to society and further the spread of the gospel. If you'd like to learn more about the specific fund companies that are available, please reach out to me directly by replying to the thank you email that you will receive after the webinar. So now we're going to move into some questions. So if you had a question and you posted it in the chat, I will go ahead and review those and we'll kind of go over those things. So I'm just waiting here. Open it up here. Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any questions. So hopefully I didn't put you guys to sleep, or hopefully I was very clear with my presentation and you understand and articulated everything. But again, if you have any questions, please let me know, and you will be receiving a thank you email after this. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to attend our webinar. If you want to discover what is in your portfolio, we offer complimentary screenings. A huge passion of mine is to get the word out about BRI because not many people know it exists. And I think it's very important for investors to have the capability to invest with their values. You will receive a thank you email after the webinar. In it will be a link to request one of these complimentary screenings. Also, feel free to pass the link along to a friend or family member that would be interested in a screening of their portfolio. And with that, we conclude our presentation. Visit my website and follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn to get updates on new and relevant content that I post. Thanks again and have a great day. Oh, I'm sorry. Some questions here popped up, and let me address them before I end here. So a question is, do you do personal investments like an accountant, or is it not something that you do? And so this person is asking about whether I can make accounts or help my clients with accounts. So I am not an accountant who does taxes, and so accountants do taxes and do auditing, but I do do financial advising. So I do help my clients, and I open up accounts for them. I help them invest, and so I do personal investments for retirement, for college savings, for large purchase savings, like saving for a house, things like that. So I help my clients with that, and you can access those things and through my services. And so that's a great question. Thank you for asking me that. And looks like it was the only question that popped up. So again, thank you all for your time and have a wonderful day.